All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all. This is the X Zone, and I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in our studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, 1220 Classic 1220. And you can listen to us streamed around the world or visit the Classic 1220 website at www.classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Michael Peter LANGEVIN, and we're going to be talking about the paranormal, the occult, mysticality, magic, and unknown realities. Now, Peter is, widely known for his expertise in the fields of the occult, shamanic transformation, magic, mysticism, and the often undefinable. Michael has greatly enhanced the way many people view physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social wellness. At the core of his teachings lies the transformational consciousness, a spiritual awakening that he sees as the next step in human evolution. Joining me now is Michael Peter LANGEVIN. Michael, welcome back to the X Zone. It's been a long time, my friend.
It has, Rob. It's great to talk to you again.
What have you been up to since you and I last talked those many years ago?
Oh, what haven't I been up to? My wife and I ran a magazine in Virginia for 7 or 8 years called The Echo World. And that kind of put Virginia back a bit, or at least it opened its mind to other possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I've been traveling a bunch. We've moved to New Orleans, which kind of feels like I've come home. And I've written this book, The Travel Tales from Unknown Realities, and I'm working on a few others.
Tell me, what are unknown realities anyway?
Well, Rob, if we open our minds and think about the world as we know it, the material world,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of see that as one slice of the onion of reality, that beyond that, if you peel back the nature of existence, there are many other dimensions. We know there's other planets, but other dimensions is the stuff of science fiction and comic books, and a lot of times. But I have experienced in my life many things that have, by the material world standards, no reason to exist. I think everybody can touch these realities, experience these experiences with some practice and some focus. And I think they exist out there, and they're much more real in some cases than our own reality.
So what are some of the experiences that you've had, Michael?
I've been really blessed. My father was a funeral director. My grandfather was a funeral director. So I grew up in a funeral home, which brings a lot of different views of existence to a young life.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old, my father brought me down to the funeral home. He had decided I was going to become a funeral director and made me touch a dead body. At that point, an electric shock went up my arm, and I had a different connection with life and death than I had up to that point in 5 years, and has stuck with me ever since. In my years that progressed, I became an apprentice in the funeral home and helped my father collect dead bodies in the middle of the night and embalm bodies. I experienced many ghosts. At one point, I was in New England where the ground freezes pretty hard, so they dig graves with backhoes in the wintertime, and a lot of times they catch old graves and knock the bones all around the cemetery. In my teen years, I thought that was pretty cool. So after a funeral, I would go back and collect the bones because it was nicely sacrilegious. I bring them back to my room and put them in a terrarium I had. After a while, I started having the strangest dreams, which got worse and worse, and to the point that I thought I was going insane. I begged and prayed for these dreams to stop, and one night a figure emerged from the dreams and said his name was Phineas Goodhue, and he had come to speak for the bones. He told me that I had interrupted the bones' planned afterlife experiences, and that they needed me to return them to sacred ground. I somehow, not knowing lucid dreaming at that point in time, asked him what would happen if I didn't. He said they'd drive me mad. I asked him what it'd give me if I did, and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to know a lot of secrets of reality." Well, be careful what you ask for. My life has been full of all kinds of mystical experiences because of that. The next morning I got up and I buried the bones in the back of a funeral home in sacred ground. And a few weeks later I was exploring another cemetery and found a tombstone back from the 1800s with the name Phineas Goodhue on it. I had never seen before. These kind of things have happened to me all my life. I've spent a lot of time in Latin America, in both Yucatan and Mexico and Guatemala, and in the Amazon and the Andes Mountains, practicing or experiencing rituals with a number of shamans in a number of different groupings and tribes. I've traveled in Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean, and experienced things such as voodoo and African magic.
So, do these rituals really work?
Yes. I'm not a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if anyone believes me or if anyone uses the stuff that I've learned, but my experience tells me that if people want to have magical experiences or want to do magical rituals and ceremonies with either the right guidance, which helps a lot, or even on their own through research. Nowadays you can do it on YouTube or through books and articles. You can find the techniques, and with the right intent and a certain amount of persistence and suspending our disbelief, we can bring about amazing results. Years ago, I sat on a hillside in Methuen, Massachusetts, with a group of people, and we were running a party that was turning bad because motorcycle gangs had come and they were going to have quite the fight. It was a clear night, but I convinced the people who were running the party to go up on a hill with me and that we could make it rain. They weren't quite sure, but they did trust me. So we did a ritual, and sure enough, out of the clear sky came clouds, and it poured, and the party was ended, and the fights were averted. That's a simple thing that I did in my youth that can be done, and I've seen done miraculously on a larger scale all over the world.
But Peter, how does it work? How do these rituals that people conduct actually change the laws of physics?
The laws of physics, as we've learned more in science, and I greatly respect science, we've peeled back a lot of what we thought were unmovable laws, where we've got to the level of quantum reality now. Our thoughts, our intentions, our spiritual beliefs are extremely powerful. Larry Dorsey, famous author, wrote a book on the power of prayer, and he had people pray to their the god deities of their belief systems, and others pray to a rock, and others not pray for sick people. And he did a scientific experiment, and the people that were prayed for, whether it was to a spiritual deity or a rock did better in their healing than the ones that weren't prayed for. We have scientific proof. What happens, in my estimation, is that there's a lot more, as I've said earlier, to reality than we know. There are a lot of spiritual entities that exist and can be called upon to aid and assist us. There's also a great power in each individual. Psychics and intuitives are not unique. They've just worked on their abilities or were born with their abilities that any of us can develop and fine tune, just like learning to play basketball or building our muscles lifting weights. And when we do this under the right circumstances, we can move mountains.
So if this knowledge is known and it can help mankind, why haven't we been taught this? Why has this been suppressed?
Well, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I hate to sound like I believe in conspiracies, but society organized the way it is doesn't want individuals to find their full potential or be able to take care of themselves. Right now, we give away our power to institutions. We work jobs. We believe that spiritual leaders can talk to God for us, but we can't do it ourselves. We give our power to doctors and to a number of other authority figures. If you knew right now that with some attention you could have your dreams come true, you would be much harder to control, and you might not work a normal job. Not that you work a normal job anyway, but you might not be as easy to control or as likely to consume the latest car or the biggest house.
Okay, so if this information had been shared with us in the earlier ages of our development, would we not have had the ability to grow using these rituals in order to get ahead both as a society and individually without having to worry about the control of religious philosophies or the Illuminati or the New World Order?
Sure, and there's a variable of answers to that, Rob. And they're fairly simple, which is why I hesitate. In that, perhaps, and there's many levels to them. Perhaps we incarnate in this world to learn lessons. Mm-hmm. Perhaps humanity wasn't ready for this information to come as public as it is now. Perhaps we had to go through the historical experiences we went through to get to here. Perhaps I'm building on the knowledge and experiences in my genes of my ancestors. There's a lot of possibilities. What I feel is most important is that today in the 21st century, we have access to this ability, and it's really our belief systems and our fears that get in the way of us really tapping into it.
Michael, please stand by. We've got to take our first break. Exonation.
Okay,
Michael
great.
Peter Langevin is our very special guest, and we'll be back on the other side as we discuss and investigate this hour the paranormal, the occult, mystical, magic, and unknown realities. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we are here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, www.classic1220.ca.
And it's magic if the music is groovy and makes you feel happy like an old-time movie. I'll tell you about the magic and it'll free your soul, but it's like trying to tell a stranger about a rock and roll. If you believe in magic, don't bother to choose if it's judgment
Welcome back to the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we are here on your hometown radio, Classics 1220. You can listen to us streamed around the world, or just visit to see the great programming that is available to you on Classic 1220 at www.classic1220.ca. Michael Peter Langevin is my special guest, and we're talking about the paranormal, the occult, mysticism, magic, and the unknown realities. Now, Peter, before we went to the commercial break, you and I were talking about, the use of rituals and why we haven't been using rituals at a very early age in our sociological upbringing, so we could actually use them today to better society, humanity, as well as each other. And you kind of alluded that, it was the other powers out there, the religious philosophies, the Illuminati or the New World Order, that didn't want us to get that far. But knowing what we know today, Peter, isn't it possible that we could actually do it, succeed, and that the other powers or the negative powers really pose no threat to us?
You're absolutely right, Rob. I think the time is coming. The time is here. I think the information is available as it's never been available before. And I think there's more and more individuals waking up, breaking the spell of disbelief or their lack of power, breaking out of their drama and the pettiness that keeps us focused away from our fullest potential. More and more, I have people contacting me because of my 4 books and a number of articles and interviews I've done over the years. I have people contacting me all the time saying, I had this experience. What does it mean? I'd like to learn more in this area. How do I do that? There's a groundswell of revolution going on in people's living rooms that's not reported in mainstream media.
Such as? Give me some examples, Peter. Michael.
Sure. I had somebody call me yesterday saying that they were pretty sure that their grandmother was dying, but they had prayed and visualized and meditated and done ritual, and she seemed to get a second lease on life. They were wondering if they were responsible and how to keep this going. Were they responsible? Was it a coincidence? I'm not the one to decide that, but they took actions that they felt could make a difference, and there was a difference made. I've had a multitude of people, because I've been in Latin America so much, write to me about experiences they've had in the Nazca lines, on Lake Titicaca, in Machu Picchu, that were otherworldly. And these are average people who went down for a week vacation, that they felt something they had never felt before, that they thought they saw something that wasn't there, that they felt like they got a message from some other place than they were used to. These things are happening on a regular basis. How many of your listeners haven't seen a ghost, haven't felt like when somebody was dying, they either knew it or they were contacted soon thereafter? More and more, these sort of phenomena are taking place, and people are opening up. Well, if that's true, then what else is true, and what else can I do? You're not necessarily accused of wearing an aluminum foil hat if you believe in UFOs, as we once were.
A lot has changed over the 30-some-odd years that I've been doing this show, Peter. And,
you and me both. When I started Magical Blend magazine back in 1980, people used to tell me that was evil, and people weren't supposed to know that knowledge. Yeah. Now it's in classrooms and being used by a wide range of professionals.
Yeah, we see the same thing with the X-Chronicles newspaper that we've been publishing since 1990. And the times are changing, but something that I've noticed, Peter, that the power of belief is the strongest power in the universe. And when you get people going to these religious or mystical places, they expect to see something. They expect to feel something. And I often wonder how many of these people are manifesting these these sightings, these experiences, these feelings themselves?
In some cases, Rob, of course they are. I mean, what I tell people when they ask me if they should consult a psychic or an intuitive or go to a seance or to this woman who can bring through dead relatives, I say do it with discretion. Just because somebody says they can do something or claims to have abilities doesn't mean they do. And if it feels right inside you, then you've got something to go on. If it feels wrong at any point, then walk away. And I think when you say doing things in group and expectations, those are real powerful magical tools. But are they misused? Well, we've all heard of crowd hypnosis and how gangs of people can lead each other wrong. On the other hand, when you practice things like prayer and ritual and ceremony, you know that if you do it alone, you can bring about results. If you do it with another person, you can bring about a more powerful results. And if you can do it with three or a group of people and all focus on the same outcome, that the likelihood increases exponentially.
Peter, there seems to be a lot more interaction with demonic forces or forces of negativity from either this realm or other realms as well as other dimensions. What do you think is causing this?
Oh, there's a number of things. One, I go back to what I said earlier. What we're told by organized religion has an effect on us. I was doing a radio interview the other night, and the fellow, he pictures himself as someone who's very open-minded and very open to spiritual and alternative spiritual and paranormal material. But about halfway through the interview, he said to me, "I think you're doing demon work. I think this is evil." And I couldn't help but laugh because I'm anything but. I've helped so many people with it that I know I'm not. But the other thing is, as the light gets lighter, the dark gets darker. If humanity has been greatly affected, and if you talk to organized religions, especially the Catholic Church, we sure have been, by dark and demonic forces for centuries, then if humanity is waking up, we're beginning to shine our own light and the light of our unlimited godhood, basically, brighter. So the demonic and dark forces are desperately trying to come in, slow that down or stop it so they can still have a handhold and have an effect on humanity. The other part is that there are belief systems, and sometimes I belong to them, that our fear and doubts and drama and suffering, it actually feeds a number of spiritual entities. It's kind of a mana for them to live on. And therefore, if we stop doing that, if we move out of fear, we're removing that group of beings' food source.
So how would someone protect themselves from the negative powers that are out there, the negative forces?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important one, Rob. Protection is very important when you enter these fields because just like a Ouija board, when you open the door to possibilities, anything can walk through, especially if you're untrained. And as silly as it sounds, what I've said about organized religion, when we're trained early on to do prayer, it gets into our deep subconscious and it becomes a powerful tool to shine a light because we have, no matter how much we go through changes, we have a belief system and there are entities, that are out there that we can call on that are very powerful. But there's also a number of spiritual tools that are non-spiritual, and it's not necessarily garlic. It's a matter of visualization. Meditation is very powerful. Visualization and self-talk are very powerful. Sometimes when I've known I'm going into do some kind of astral traveling or ritual in a dangerous zone, we'll call it, I'll try to bring something very imaginative in to protect me, whether it's an armor of mirrors to reflect back any negativity, whether it's manatees from Florida swimming around me to confuse any entities that are coming at me. The other thing is when we feel ourselves falling into fear or being attacked, to just say no. Not to quote Nancy Reagan, but we can say no to these beings and step out of our fear, and they really need us to be afraid to control us in most cases. So if we just stand in our strength and our beliefs that we're doing good work and that we're entering these realms not to cause trouble or harm to anyone, but to do good, we have a protection that we bring in.
Where do these entities come from, Peter?
From the far ends of the universe. Again, if we go back to my viewing reality as an onion, if we live on this plane of existence, and how many species, even with the extinction rate, exist on Earth alone, and our scientists guess that there are many other populated planets in our universe, and that's just planets. If you talk about other dimensions and states of vibration, you have countless levels of existence and layers of history that have, they spoke in ancient Sumeria and ancient Egypt and ancient Peru about entities that existed. And some of them, I believe from firsthand experience, still exist to this day because people have believed in them and given them energy to exist. And some just pop in. My wife, bless her, grew up in Sweden, and she's a Nordic witch. She's written 2 books in Swedish about Swedish magic or Nordic magic, and she taught me something called Seda, which is an ancient spiritual practice similar to but different than voodoo, possession, and we kind of refined it between us because I was raised in the Western occult tradition and the shamanic, the Latin American shamanic tradition, and it took us a bit to kind of get our magical practices together. But she taught me Seda, and between us, when we lived in Virginia in the country, we would sit on our porch overlooking the forest and bring in entities from other dimensions to gather knowledge and reference points. And yeah, we're both writers. Sure, we probably have active imaginations, but I felt things in my body and my soul when we did this deep down, and we got voices and knowledge that really seemed like things I couldn't and wouldn't make up, whether it was an entity in another dimension that goes about healing and has no appendages but grows an arm.
Michael, I hate to do this to you, my friend. Michael, I've got to take
when he's done, the appendage melts away, and so does the picture.
All right, Michael, I've got to take my break. Exo Nation, Michael Peter Langevin is our guest, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and of course, classic1220.ca. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, www.classic1220.ca. Michael Peter Langevin is our special guest. And Michael, how can people find out more about you or contact you if they have a serious issue that they need help with?
Sure, Rob. I'm very available. I'm all over the internet. I've got Facebook page is an author, Michael Peter Langevin, and a personal one under the same name. Twitter, X, and Instagram. And people can email me at michaelpeterlangevin@gmail.com. If they want a question, I'm more than willing to respond. Love to help people. Have been doing it for decades now, and it's very satisfying.
Is there any particular type of problem that people are facing today that you just can't imagine why these specific problems or this one specific problem is manifesting more than others?
Well, I do. I've got my degree in social work and therapy, so I do on occasion child therapy, and I'm dealing with more and more kids who have, since COVID, who have depression and anxiety, and it seems to be a lot of adults are suffering from the same thing, that and like fear. I mean, you can't just say stop,
Yeah.
but it'd be nice if we could. But people do have the ability to break out of that. They don't have to use magic, but it's a great tool. Prayer, meditation, magic, exercise, good diet, simple things that a lot of people don't think about. And then to develop a creative outlet is extremely powerful to offset these things. And I find that people who want to go down the alternative spirituality path, that by turning off your electronics one night a week even, and focusing that on doing praying or meditating or dancing or drumming or chanting or just sitting and staring out a window, a couple hours a week enhances spiritual energy, if you will, and our ability to dispel a lot of negative states of being. Is it going to cure schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? No, probably not right away, but it's not going to hurt it. And we do have amazing healing abilities within ourselves. I've seen healing going on, just an individual on themselves and other people, two individuals around the world, that our doctors would say are impossible. And if we believe that, we can really dispel so much of what, I mean, the truth is, in the United States and Canada, I assume, the food industry doesn't sell us food, and the medical industry doesn't work towards our health. Those are wide, generalities, but to a great degree it's true. And if we take the power back to ourselves, we can start eating whole foods that feed our bodies, our minds, and our spirit, and we can start doing exercise that do the same, and we can start healing ourselves, both psychologically and physically, in so many ways.
Are you finding that the younger people in today's society are turning to alternative religions as well as magic and the occult?
Yes, very much so. And again, I do the same thing I do with psychics. The people that I talk to, I urge them to use their discretion. It's really easy in a lot of areas now to join a witch's coven. Sure, it didn't used to be 40 years ago, but it's easy to join a group of visualizers or meditators or occult practitioners. They're around. You can meet them on Meetup in most major cities. And some of them are great. And to get in a group of like-minded beings and practice that is wonderful. I personally haven't found a group in all my years that I believe everything they teach. But it's great to take a little here and a little there, spend a little time with this group and a little time with that group. But in general, I think younger people are opening up with their minds and spirits much more so than your and my peers did 20 years ago. That there's a feeling that there's other possibilities out there. And an exploration that's going on there's a lot of misinformation. Just look at TikTok. But there's also a lot of really good information. If you do your research, it's available. And if you try it and it works, then you got something that you can work with.
But what about the negative connotations that, for example, witchcraft has? Over the years, which is witchcraft, and even Wicca has been frowned upon. And let's just
what is the quote from the Bible, Rob? You probably know it better than me, but God wants none who are soothsayers and magic doers and fortune tellers to be attended to. Something that's a terrible quote, but something like that. And so you got a Bible, which is the best-selling book in the world, saying that it's bad. You've got years ago when I was doing Magical Blend magazine in San Francisco, Oral Roberts held up the magazine on national TV and said it was the devil's tool. It was great for subscriptions. I couldn't have bought an ad like that. But there's a lot of people who have their belief systems. And bless them, if it works for them, that's great. But they often feel threatened by other people's belief systems and practices if they're different than their own. But the evil, are there devil worshippers? Yeah. Most of them are ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, but they're out there. Are there cult leaders who will exploit you? Yeah, I've run into a few too many of those. But there are good groups of people, and witchcraft of its nature is like a knife or a fire. It can be used for good or evil, but it's from my experience, it's usually a group of good-meaning people who get together and practice some level of ritual and enhance their lives and have a good level of comradeship similar to a church.
I remember having a Wiccan on. I'm sorry, it wasn't a Wiccan, she was a witch. And she was saying, Rob, what we do is no different than what Sam and his friends may do on a Thursday night, go to the bowling alley and have some fun. The only difference is that we go in a group, we go into a forest, and we actually partake in celebrating nature.
And a lot of, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, every witchcraft group that I've met is different. They're much less uniform than a lot of organized religions. They have commonalities, but they're very different. Some of them just do that, and it's connected with nature, and it's making nature their church, and that works wonderfully. Others are indoors in New York City or Delhi, meeting in a circle in an apartment and doing ceremony. They vary greatly, and in some areas they're just like, I know a lot of pagans who like to get together and share recipes for lentil soup and do some magic while they're doing it.
Yeah.
So there's all levels of it, and it's up to everybody. And a lot of people, when they come into alternative spirituality, they make a choice. I can change this much from what I was raised with. And that's how far they go. And that's as far as they're supposed to go. And if it makes them happy and works for them, then that's just fine. Others keep pushing the limits further and further and further, and there really are no limits.
So if this is the case, Peter, and there's no harm, why are a lot of these alternative religions still in the closet? Why aren't they mainstream? Why don't they come out and say, this is who we are, this is what we do?
Rob, when I tell people I hear voices and I speak to beings from other dimensions, a lot of people are ready to lock me up or just walk away. I've been on a lot of radio shows where they say, well, you say those things, but you don't sound crazy. You know,
Yeah.
It's just our cultural norms are, if you believe in things that you can't prove 100% scientifically or hit with your hand and get a sound back, then they're not real and you're crazy. We've seen that with the whole extraterrestrial thing, and now the U.S. government is saying that extraterrestrials are probably real. So things go through changes as society is ready for them to be accepted beyond what we call the norm.
I often, like I watched the congressional hearings a couple of months ago, and I also listened to the whistleblowers, and there's nothing new. Nothing has changed over the last 34 years when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, Peter.
Oh, I think the U.S. government and the Catholic Church, for that matter, have more acknowledged it than they ever did before. Have they done anything big about it? No, but there's a level of maybe there is something that wasn't there before. Before it was all swamp gas.
Well, when you talk about the Catholic Church or the Vatican or any other religious organization where the Bible is the tenant and the book, the Bible is filled with paranormal events. It's filled with UFOs. It's filled with angels and other beings. It's filled with so many wonders. I can't understand why the suppression, because basically, like you said before, it's the biggest selling book going. It always has been. So why not?
The best way to keep a secret is to hide it in plain view, Rob.
Yeah.
And that people get that, but how many people do you know sit and read the Bible on their own? A certain amount.
Yeah, I do.
Have it force-fed to them by their minister or their priest.
I think the day of being force-fed by any member of the clergy is well gone. I think that people have come up to their own standards and are believing in what they want to believe. And I think that the religious organizations are certainly coming up to the times. So these are
I think that's a wonderful statement, and I want you to be right. I want to be a little bit old-fashioned in what I said. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more that happens, the better off individuals and society is.
I agree with you, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. And Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Michael Peter Langevin. And we're talking about magic. We're talking about the paranormal. We're talking about mysticism and the occult. When we come back, more with our special guest. And this is a very interesting topic. It's one of the most interesting topics that need to be fully discussed in open forums, because it's a sign of the times. We'll be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, www.classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell. We'll both be back. Don't go away. And I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, www.classic1220.ca. Now, if you'd like to send me an email, if you'd like to have a question answered by any of our guests, if you'd like to contact a guest, or maybe you've got a special guest that you would like to bring on to the show here, send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And the X Chronicles newspaper is available with our compliments at www.xchronicles.net. Michael Peter Langevin is our special guest. And Michael, it's always great talking to you. You've done so much over the years that I've had the pleasure of knowing you and the people that you work with. But you do a lot of traveling. And I was wondering if there Any tales, any stories you can share with us, or any experiences that you've had firsthand traveling the world and doing the thing you do?
So many, so many. I've written two other books that deal specifically with Latin America, the secrets of the ancient Incas and the secrets of the Amazon shamans, and in them I have a multitude of stories, and also in Travel Tales from the Unknown Reality I speak of a couple. I've gotten to see shamans in the Amazon and the Andes do things that we think are impossible. One of my favorites is Vanishing Eddie. Vanishing Eddie was a shaman outside of an old rubber city in northern Bolivia, and I had heard about him, and I seeked him out, and I found him in a bar, which you often do with shamans, and bought him a couple of drinks and asked him the secrets to his magic, and he kind of liked me, and he said, "Meet my apprentice here after dark, and he'll walk you out to my magical hut on the edge of town." And after quite a hike that night, I got to his cabin, and in the Andes and the Amazon, they use guinea pigs as we use chickens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have poultry when the Incas were in charge, and it's a cultural thing to eat, to raise guinea pigs and eat them. And Eddie had guinea pigs in his house. They have high sills on the door, so the guinea pigs can't get out, and they just kind of run around until it's time to eat them. As I was sitting there drinking tea with Eddie, the guinea pigs started disappearing. Pop, 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 pop. And I said to Eddie, "Are you doing this?" And he said, "Of course." And then Eddie was gone. And I kind of sat there trying to figure it out, and then he walked back through the door. He said, "I'm sorry, I had to relieve myself." I said, "But you didn't leave, Eddie." And he just kind of smiled, and we talked for a little bit, and then he was gone again. And when he came back, I had just moved to Northern California, where there's a lot of yellow thistle that grows, and he had basically an arm full of it. And he said, "Oh, I just visited where you live. It's a beautiful area. We don't have these flowers here in the Amazon." And I said, Eddie, I don't know how you do this. I want to learn. Pop, he was gone again. I sat there with his apprentice for half an hour, and nothing happened. And his apprentice said, "Yeah, he doesn't like to teach his magic. He likes to use it to help people, and open people up to possibilities. But he's probably in the bar in town." So we hiked back, and sure enough, Eddie was sitting at the bar, and I jumped on the stool next to him, and I said, Eddie, I want to become your other apprentice. I want to learn this magic." Eddie almost killed himself laughing, and he said, "You'd be the worst apprentice. I'd kill you. Your role is to go travel, meet people, right? Not to be anyone's magical apprentice. It just wouldn't work." That kind of magic is learnable, not overnight and not from just one book. And I haven't learned that one, but it is learnable, and it is doable, and it is out there.
During the commercial break, you and I were chatting briefly, and you told me something about a flying carpet or a magic carpet.
Yes, I was in Istanbul one time, and I was with a friend from give me a minute, Switzerland, and he was a slight bit of a con artist, and he had opened a shop in Switzerland, and it hadn't gone anywhere, but he had cards, and he convinced this one guy in the bazaar in Istanbul that we were rug dealers, and the guy just treated us royally. He had told him that if we liked the rugs, we would buy a bunch of them and sell them in Switzerland and the United States. And the guy fed us and gave us wonderful Arabic coffee, and at the end of the day, he wanted to put the cream on the pie. So he invited us through a bunch of alleyways to a big hall where he locked the door, and he opened this large closet, and out of it he took a rug, and he put the rug down on the ground and told us to sit on it, and he walked around the rug speaking I don't know what, and sprinkling, it seemed like herbs, And to this day, I swear, the rug rose above the ground and moved around the hall, and then settled back down. And the man said, if you became a good client and really did increase my sales a great deal, I have access to a couple of these and could possibly make one available to you. The next day, we left Istanbul because there was no shop to sell the rugs in. But I always remembered the experience like none other.
Traveling throughout the world, what was the one experience you had that you will never forget? The experience of experiences.
Well, the one that comes to mind, and there's been a lot of those, but the one that comes to mind was I was on a camel caravan across the Sahara for I think it was 9 days, and it was wonderful. The Bedouin guides set up camp for us and cooked us Bedouin meals and told us stories and sang songs late into the night. But being on a camel all day in the hot sun, even with a turban on and your face wrapped in a scarf, is pretty wearisome. And after about the 8th day, you get almost delirious. And I looked over, and beside me was this rather tall man on a camel. And I knew he wasn't part of our group, and I thought, oh my God, I'm hallucinating. And he said, no, I'm real. I'm a genie. I'm a jinn. And I thought, oh, that's nice, because I was sure I'd lost my wit. And he said, he told me a bunch of stories how Muhammad had tried to make the jinn into demons and had tried to chase them out of the cities and really stole a lot of their power. And that now they mostly lived in the deserts where no humans lived. And he had just appeared to me because I had some kind of weird energy and he wanted to play. And he said, I'm real. I can make your camel throw you right now. And I said, no, please don't. He said, okay. And then somebody else in the group's camel threw them off. It just went wild and threw them off. So we all had to stop and get off our camels, where the guides gave this woman one of their camels and took the one that had kind of had a problem. And while I was standing by my camel, I saw this rock in the ground. It was kind of a greenish rock and looked odd, and I picked it up. And this fellow was standing there, and he said, that's a magic stone from the Sahara. I made it appear for you. Show it to the head guide in the evening when you stop. He'll tell you how special it is. I thought, yeah, okay. I picked up a rock, and I'm hearing voices. When he rode beside me for a while and then disappeared. That night when we stopped, I showed it to the head guide, and he said, oh my God, this is an amazing thing. Nobody ever finds them. They're dangerous, but they'll grant you wishes, and you have to throw it in a fire and make a wish. So I threw it in the fire, and I wished we were going to Casablanca, and I wished that I would have a mystical, wonderful experience there. Well, I had a series of them. Coincidence? My imagination? Hallucinations in the desert? I never thought so, but you can't convince people of it, and why bother?
So what is next for Michael Peter Langevin?
Well, I'm living in New Orleans. What a city. I used to do Magical Blend in San Francisco back in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was a very creative, magical place. But New Orleans today is what San Francisco was then and something else. There's voodoo, there's vampires, there's ghosts. They're not just for guided tours, they're real and they're here. I'm working on a book called Behind the Scenes in New Orleans, and I've met and interviewed a lot of magic workers here and people who deal with the unknown, and it's as wild as anything I've seen in Africa or South America. That there is voodoo and it does work, and there's a special kind in New Orleans. So I'm excited to be doing exploration here. I just got back from Sweden. We visited my wife's family, which was just lovely, and some of her friends who practice magic and did a bunch of ritual there that was really fun.
Peter, I'm going to give you 1 minute because we're coming down to the end of this show for tonight. What message would you like to share with the listening audience of Classic 1220 and the listeners around the world who listen to us on classic1220.ca?
Any of them can do it. Anyone can do this stuff. Use discretion, believe, and be persistent. And magic and huge amounts of spiritual abilities, psychic abilities are available to all of us. Just do the work and believe.
So where would they go for information on how to even start getting into the realm of magic?
I have a author's page on Amazon where all my books are available and some of the anthologies that I've been in. The other place is just pick a subject, whether it's the occult or mysticism or alternative spiritual practice. Do a search online. I was doing a book signing in a Barnes & Noble last week, and right there on the bookshelf was Magical and Occult Secrets, a magazine that was a special from, I think it was Time magazines, and it had some good basic information in it. They have all of those stores have occult sections or New Age sections, and there's occult and mystical bookstores in most major cities across North America.
All right, Peter, quickly give us your contact information one more time. You've got about 15 seconds.
Michael Peter Langevin at gmail.com. Michael Peter Langevin on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and Travel Tales from Unknown Realities. I'm pretty proud of the book, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback on it.
Michael Peter Langevin, thank you very much for joining us. Take care, my friend, and please, let's not make it such a long time between visits.
It's a deal, Rob. Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, sir. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more, just Google Michael Peter Langevin. Well, that's it for tonight, Exonation. Wow. It's just been a great night. Thank you very much for joining us and for tuning your radio to your hometown, Classic 1220, and of course, to all our listeners around the world listening to us on the Classic 1220 website at www.classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, when once again we meet here in the X Zone, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. I'm Rob McConnell. Good night, everyone.